So delighted to be here. Thank you so much. I work a lot across the UK in different parts of the health and social care sector. I haven't been in Northern Ireland yet, so very happy to think about that too. And it's complicated, right? And I've been involved since sort of early 2000s, pre-integration in Scotland, with integration with health and social care coming through. I've been involved in both secondary and primary care, with GPs, etc. So, I'm really kind of quite au fait with the complexity of and the demand, the incredible demand upon you. So I'm delighted to bring this to you. And in the 3 series, just think, just let yourself go. Dial the effort dial down. You don't have to give, all your focus and all your attention in this. This is a session to just let yourself be. Okay, so we will be introducing some core ideas to you. You can try them out, but if today's one of those kind of blah days, or today you're kind of really, really busy in your head, just let yourself just let this wash into you, rather than you putting a lot of effort in. I've got some slides I'm going to show you, but we're actually doing lots of interaction today, so I'm really keen to kind of get your views. Just to say a little bit about us. It's all research based. We've been doing this stuff since 2007 with multiple sort of layers of publication. We have really learned that people, whether that's you yourself and individually, or teams or whole organizations, you really get to grips with this stuff once you can see it for yourself. Okay, so part of what we're going to be doing today in the main part is around this resilience river that you see behind both Katie and myself. And really kind of tuning into your own resilience, really into your own thoughts around that. And then there's a free resource also that we'll throw up at the end where you can do a mini self-evaluation. And once you've got that, it becomes a wee bit clearer for you about therefore going on to understand and optimize it. So we adopt that in all our work. We allow that, or we enable organizations to do it through lots of sort of complicated things, but also through this very simple dashboard solo for doing self-assessments, and teams can get into it. If you're doing it across the whole enterprise, you can get into tracking, etc. Quite significant work here. Love to do that within the NHS, and we are looking at some pilots of that. And the last thing is we're a bunch of coaches. I call us resilience nutters. My community may not call themselves that, but there's about 100 of us who offer resilience coaching in lots of different ways, including some things within the NHS that we're piloting in Scotland, called check-in, check-out, a very easy process for building psychological safety, which you yourselves can take on. So that's kind of who we are and what we bring. And today, and these sessions, we've got basically just understand it a little bit, connect with yourself, where you yourself show up. What are the areas that are sort of highly challenging for you that you could just boost yourself a little bit and therefore not get hijacked so much? A little bit about tools. So we're going to, session 1, we're going to really think about your resilience river, which I'm going to show you a video about, and you'll get into breakout rooms. 2, we're going to get into things that kind of, cause the stress reaction, and from our research, the top 3 barriers. And then session 3 is about the top enablers and getting some habits so that you can just day-to-day easy habits that could just boost yourself a little bit, and therefore avoid some complexity or getting hijacked. We do have some poll at the end, so the guys will fire that up. So please do give us feedback. So without further ado, let's get into it. I wonder how you're arriving today. You might be feeling like this. There's a lot of overwhelm, there's a lot of complexity, and there's so much change that sort of is enacted through the NHS, partly driven by you guys, partly driven by the politics. It can be very overwhelming. You might just be knackered. You might be wanting to do a lot of that right now. Or you might be coming in like this, sort of, lots of things in your mind. So my invitation to start off with is just to notice how you are right now, and allow yourself to relax. George, if you're having your lunch, enjoy that mouthful and be aware of what you're actually eating. If you're sitting in a chair, if you just notice if there's any tension in your body, just allow yourself to release that tension. Just allow yourself to just be a bit. Dial the effort down from sort of 8, 9, 10 out of 10 if that's the way you've been doing your morning. Just dial it down to a sort of 3 or 4. This next 40 minutes that we're together, we can just be at ease. Okay. Feel like when you're sitting here and ready to sort of have this stuff wash into you, that you're actually being held by your chair. You might change your position. You might get yourself with the back of your chair holding yourself up more. Let your shoulders drop. Stretch out your neck a little bit. You might feel like moving up and down if you've been online all the time. So just enjoy that sense of ease that's coming into you now. And enjoy that throughout the rest of the session. And the very first thing I'd love to get your views on is what resilience means to you. So we're going to do this in 2 parts. First of all, when you're in your upbringing and amongst your family and friends, what does resilience mean to you? Maybe you could put that in the chat room. What does it mean to you? Flexibility, yeah, bouncing back, weathering change. Boy, do you have to do that, Leah. Keep going. Absolutely. That's part of the thing is persistence, isn't it? No matter what's going on. Keeping going, keeping going, keeping going. The service has to continue. Coping, definitely. It's definitely part of it. Riding the rough with the smooth. And it's never been discussed. There's an interesting question, Anthony, to bring to the table tonight. With whoever is around you, or at the weekend if you're seeing family. So bouncing forward, that's an interesting one. So there's quite a range here. Reborn, wow, I love that. Re-energize, yet sometimes repair. Yeah, so there's lots in that, Nancy, that you've said there. So, you can be completely transformed, or there could be just some incremental kind of like, oh, I've got to get myself sorted in order to be able to go into the next meeting or the next day or see the next set of patients, But there is a prevalent theme here. I mean, coping and bouncing back, but definitely many of you are saying keeping going. And if I was to say the next question, and I'm thinking about the difference here, is what does resilience mean in your part of the organization? Right. What does it mean within the health and social care integrated unit versus if you're in acute or if you're in, primary care? What does it mean? It might mean something a little bit different. It might mean something different to your boss. What are your thoughts, anybody, about what it means within the organisation? I know you're not shy because you've already input such a lot of richness. Yeah, right. So it's a new idea. Opportunities, isn't that lovely, where everything is saying, this change is coming in, and you go, oh, and then they go, yeah, but you see it as a real opportunity to, get rid of all that problem that you've been having, or the process is going to be improved. The keep going is here, right? Always be available, keep services running, keep going. Strong processes and enough reserves. That's a very interesting one, George, because we will come back to that, is having some kind of level of capacity in order to meet the demand. And I know you guys really understand that in your day-to-day. Being able to manage the unexpected. So there are some differences here, and actually each person and their family upbringing will have a different attitude towards how they think they ought to be in order to perform well. So the join between you as an individual versus the organizational culture, if you like, is actually the crux of where the perceptions are of how you should show up. Right. And I think that's quite complex for people. Depending upon the context in which you're working in, you could be quite pulled to show up in a different way than actually how you're feeling. And that can be quite complex. So, whether you can talk about how you're feeling if you are struggling, whether you can spot other people who might not be feeling so good and actually be able to have a conversation that isn't judgmental or isn't sort of threatening. So the psychological safety that exists within the organization, within your team, within, just amongst your peers, that matters a lot. And we know that actually from the research, there are myths about resilience. There are 4 key ones, and we're just going to play a bit of a game actually. So and then take a vote on which one you think is the most dominant running in your part of the organization. So this is the first one. Toughen up. He-Man, I'm just going to get through it. There's no problem. I'm a superwoman. I've got it. I'm going to be right there, right? And I have to say, in the health service, I think this is pretty strong from what I've seen. Is that we can keep going. We have to keep going. I will keep going. I am a goer, and it just becomes sort of so grooved in your brain. And this thing, I think, somebody talked about adaptability straight up front, is the more tough you get, the more brittle you become. Okay, so you shut yourself off to other ways of doing things, and you can shut down your options as a result of that. Whereas actually the core of resilience is about being adaptable. Okay, and that flexibility. Now, if you've got a culture, or you yourself have a family and you've been upbringing that it says toughen up, just toughen it, just handle it, just get on with it, just suppress your emotions, that's a pretty tough one, right? But it definitely is part of the sort of British stiff upper lip, if you like. Interestingly, what other cultures may perceive there. So that's number one. Number two is about control. Now, this is really interesting because there is about having agency, and you will talk about your patients, particularly in social care, having agency. How is it that you can enable yourself to actually influence this particular situation? Where are the boundaries in which you can actually change something versus where can you not? Right? Versus the idea of controlling over something. So quite often what we see in team leaders and senior leaders is this idea that when I'm actually not coping, I want to know everything. I become a control freak, right? We play a game kind of in a room about how much control can you have. So seeking to control everything is actually negating and draining resilience. Taking responsibility and accountability for what you can, and then letting go of the rest, really agency, That is actually really what resilience is about. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, lots of people say this, well, there's no way that I can be resilient because I'm really not very confident. I'm not a very confident person, so I'm not going to be able to do that challenging thing over there, or I'm just not going to be able to manage. And actually, you don't need to be confident as a starting point, okay? Resilience and confidence is two-way. So there are 2 levels of confidence. One is actually just giving things a go and then learning that you can do it, okay? So high experimentation. And that feeds back and it becomes self-efficacy, if you like. Oh, I did it before, I can do it again. The second is that feeling secure. Now, that's a deeper level, about secure basis. And any of you who have studied psychology, people, places, things that you do where you can really be yourself and that you feel very secure in. And you're also sort of inspired, if you like, to be everything you can be. So resilience and confidence are built in both of these things. And the more you build your resilience, and we can go into that in the next couple of sessions and today, the more your confidence will build, and vice versa. So that's myth number 3. Myth number 4 is, and this is more organizational, but being ultra efficient, like 100% efficiency leading to high performance. That's not what our research shows. But high performance means deleting any inefficiency, but thereafter really, really, really attending to how to increase capacity of your people. That's really where high performance delivers. And some of you have talked about that surplus capacity. When you get surplus capacity, it changes your mindset a lot, and you see much further down the line where the challenges are coming from, and you smooth them out before they become an issue. So the 4 main myths of resilience, I hope that's sort of fairly clear. And I'm just wondering which one of these, 1, 2, 3, or 4, is resonating most within your part of the organization. Just put a number in the chat room and let me know what you're thinking. Quite different here. So number 2 is quite there. Yeah, very interesting. But 3 and 4 are making a, hate to say number 1. Quite a lot of 2s here. So one of the ways to think about this is when somebody is, for example, becoming a bit of a control freak, actually it's a sign that their resilience is lower. They might be being a pain in the neck, but you could be compassionate. I mean, you yourself might be suffering from this. I'm a recovering control freak. And actually to be compassionate with yourself and realize that that's a sign that actually you're feeling like you're really under the cosh, and go behind that and say, well, really, what must I do in order to raise my resilience in this moment? That's actually a really healthy way to be, rather than doing the control thing. So, all of these are signs of people feeling that their resilience is under threat. Yeah. And actually yourself, tuning into that, understanding it, noticing it, bringing your awareness to it will help you interrupt it. So let me leave those things sort of tuning in, maybe circling around for yourself, for others, for your team, for your boss, and then we'll go into this lovely thing around resilience itself. So we've talked about this before. Resilience is about adaptability. And the measure of your resilience is how much capacity you have for absorbing change successfully. So it's a strategic capability for yourselves and for your organization. And it comes down to this. It's about demand versus your capacity. And quite often there's a gap. And if there's a gap, you can fill it, for example, by putting in more hours. You might be digging in deep into your emotions. You might have things spilling into your weekends. You might be needing to talk things through with your family. You might just not be able to do the demands, so actually you become quite inefficient. All sorts of things can play in here. Yeah. But basically, if you can, for example, if capacity and demand are equal, that's you at coping. That's a good and healthy place. It doesn't leave you surplus, but you are managing. If you have a bit more surplus capacity, that's when you can start to be more proactive and look down the line at what's coming. Actually anticipate proactively what might be the problems that are coming, or indeed actually spend some time actually increasing your resilience. So these things are, extra time, extra capacity will actually help you be proactive. That's quite an ask, I know, but even very, very busy people, to be able to take half an hour in a day is immensely, the leverage factor, it's immensely releasing of capacity across the whole of the rest of the week. Those with the highest resilience actually have the ratio of 2/3 do, and sort of thinking and on their work, and 1/3 they spend actually honing their adaptive capacity. And part of that is time re-energizing, and they do it as part of their habit. So very interesting. So if that's the thing, and that's the equation, if you like, how do you get hold of it? And we talk about resilience as being like a river. Now, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share instead a video. Let me just get this up. I think you're going to all see yourselves for a moment. So, I don't know. Sorry. I'm having a struggle because of the way this is set up to find the right thing. I'm going to do the screen one. There we go. No, I'm still getting the same thing. Katie, I'm wondering whether you might be able to help me here, because I don't seem to be able to share my actual screen showing the...
Is the video on your second screen?
Possibly. No, it's not. It's on this one. So, sorry guys, a technical issue. Just bear with me. Can you bring it up at all, Katie? On the
Yeah,
YouTube?
let me see.
Excuse us for this. We didn't expect this. Having tried it before and it worked, I'm now actually flummoxed by our technology. So my apologies for this. And I know, Katie, you'll have to share with sound. So this is a video of what we call the Resilience River. It's a metaphor for all our research. It's really lovely to watch. And I really invite you, while you're watching it, to think about what your Resilience River is like today. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms and have a chat about it. Thanks very much, Katie.
Resilience is like a river. The river is full of rocks, stones, pebbles, silt. It has a direction of travel. The banks and the land define what the river is like, whether wide and flowing gently, or narrow and flowing fast. No matter the river, if the water is high enough, it whooshes over the rocks. The river stays on course. It loses a bit of momentum when it bangs into the rocks, or when it needs to shift stones and pebbles out of the way, but it still keeps going. You can see where it's going. You have perspective. When the river is low, the river bangs into rocks, losing a lot of energy in the process. It can be taken off course. It can get caught eddying. It can get split. Rocks, stones and pebbles are now out of perspective. They seem huge. They are all part of the battlefield. Your resilience, the height of your river, defines so much of how you see and experience things. With a high river, you don't get hijacked by rocks that don't matter. You bypass them. You have enough momentum to shift rocks out of the way. You have enough energy to carry some of the long-term rocks that you need to, whether that's ill health, or caring for older relatives, or a long-term issue in your work. Even when the river is a bit lower than normal, you can still use it to navigate the day, assigning the highest resilience to the highest demand, and building in rest and recovery times so that the resilience drain is kept to a minimum. A high river feels steady and good. With a low river, things are out of perspective, and you get hijacked by all sorts of things that don't matter. You don't have enough energy to carry heavy loads. You can get stopped by a large rock, preventing your flow altogether. The river can get split, or taken off course, or indeed run dry with all the effort. What's more, that in the middle of losing perspective, you can decide to add more rocks of your own in. Come and join the party. That old problem, that old habit, that way of beating yourself up about X, Y, or Z, or that old relationship that was never really closed properly. You can make it worse for yourself. Bottom line, it can all feel quite overwhelming and draining. The key to your resilience river is that to attend to the important rocks, stones and pebbles in your river, you need enough resilience to meet their demand. To do that, you need to get the river level up. Getting to know what your river is like day to day will help to do that. And deciding to ensure your resilience river is the highest possible, not theoretically, but practically, can help you navigate the day successfully.
Katie, we could just pause it there. So I'm hoping that that analogy is staying with you. It's very simple. And we're going to set up some breakout rooms for you to discuss this within sort of 10 minutes. Just twos, threes. What is your resilience river like today? And what one thing could you do to raise it? So how did you find that, just tuning in with the resilience river? How did you find that as an easy kind of metaphor for yourself and how you navigate the day? Anyone for anyone? Coming on the audio? Mm-hmm.
Uh, I found it very relatable. You know, I hadn't thought of it like a river before, which is ever changing, which I like, and you know, constant kind of boulders in the way and stuff. I mean, some boulders for me are permanent, and I'm chipping away at them. But yeah, I totally kind of get that, and how things can drain it, and yeah, really identify. I had a lovely chat with Kerry, and she gave a very interesting analogy. I hope I don't mind me saying this, Kerry, about the treacle.
That's fine. Please go ahead.
I loved your analogy of the treacle, about being kind of going through treacle, and we talked about how you know, maybe the river might be a better analogy. help you feel unstuck a bit more unstuck, or more ability to kind of you know, change things. But yeah, it was really nice to have the chat as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the chat. My husband will say to me at the end of the day, how was your day? And I'll say, oh, well, I was wading through treacle. So the river really, really helped me, because actually the treacle does hold me back. You know, it's sticking, it's making me feel I can't move forward. So I love that idea that this river is persistent. It's going to keep flowing. You know, each day is going to come, and we're just going to go with it. You know, so actually that was really helpful to me, and I really enjoyed my chat.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. And I can see from the others, it's really good to share. It's incredibly simple. And yeah, Anthony, that's a really interesting one about overflowing. Sometimes other people's rivers can wham into yours. And are they there? Do they have the right to be there? Are you trying to navigate too many people's rivers rather than your own, So that's just a really interesting sort of, so those with the highest resilience, basically they're using some kind of mechanism like this. They are at the beginning of the day saying, how am I? So for example, this weekend I had a COVID, I look after my mum who's almost 90, and I had a COVID vaccination and I felt rubbish. And I'm feeling kind of slightly under par today, much better, but under par. And so actually this morning I was looking to see how will I pace myself across the day because I'm a bit under par. What can I not do today? Right? That's the first thing. Secondly, how am I going to re-energize? What specifically am I going to do today? And so, for example, after this, I'm going to have lunch, and I'm one of those grab eaters, George. I'm grabbing lunch, I'm grabbing, and I'm often like that too. I'm Katie, I'm grabbing breakfast. But actually today I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to sit for half an hour and properly eat and properly taste. And I know it will boost that capacity enormously, actually, which means I can navigate my afternoon much more successfully rather than kind of dragging myself through the things I have to do. And also one of my issues is that I forget. So I rely on my memory a lot, but if I'm tired or if I'm not feeling very well, I can forget and I make terrible notes. So actually with the time that I come to and therefore I'm inefficient the way that I operate. Right. And then I have to go back and I have to check and all that kind of dragging thing that happens. Whereas if I'm on it, I'm on it and I'm through it. So, navigating forward in your day using the resilience river is one thing. Okay. Secondly, making sense of your day is another thing. So looking at it proactively and going, do you know what? I was hijacked by all those pebbles today and I blew up. Didn't need to. All right, now it's about forgiveness time, So actually really using it as a barometer, but also making sense of it. And also then what they do is they will automatically every day be considering, how can I raise it? Across the week, how can I raise it? So not just executing tasks and doing a bit of energy stuff and self-care, but also things like, well, how can I be inspired? Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. I know we're kind of a couple of minutes behind, and that's my fault for screwing up the tech. There's just one thing I want to show you. You can, if you like, obviously there's the book, but if you would like to get your own kind of self-assessment, it's a mini self-assessment, you are very welcome to do this. These slides will be sent out afterwards, and of course there's more tools available through the Being Resilient publication. So I hope it's given you a starter for 10 on how you actually could navigate your day more successfully and have less of that kind of bumpy ride if you've got lots of rocks in your river. Look forward to next week, 12:15, be there or be square, and look forward to the next start your week well. So thank you very much for your time today.